Awesome. Okay, so like Sarah said, we're here to talk about the page experience update. Core Web Vitals is a part of that. Couple things. So I have tried to make these slides kind of high level because when I come to a meetup or a group that I'm not a part of, it's tough to know where people are at. So I've tried to make these slides consumable for a wide audience. So if you're not very technical, that's okay. If you are very technical, that's okay too. So hopefully you are able to follow along and get some value out of today's talk. The other thing is that I have built in some time to the end where I can take questions. I even have an FAQ section at the end. It's only a couple, but I think they're important FAQs. So I'll tackle some of that, but I'm a pretty informal person. So if you have questions along the way, just go ahead and unmute yourself and just chime in, and I'll do my best to answer you. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get rolling. So these are the things we're going to be covering today. I'll go over the page experience update as a whole. We'll talk a little bit about Core Web Vitals, and that will be our main focus for today. I'll talk a little bit about how to identify Core Web Vital issues, how you actually fix problems that the report is showing you, or how you can improve those scores, and then how to monitor that performance. So let's say you've identified an issue, you fixed an issue, and you want to monitor the performance and see how that's impacting your overall scores and how it could impact your presence in Google search. And then again, we'll have some FAQs at the end as well and some time for questions. If you want to follow along on your own, if you have two screens you want to follow along, that's fine, or you can just follow along with me. The slides are at expanderdigital.com/slides. And you can just go down to the 2021 section and you'll see the deck there. This link will be at the end of the deck as well. And so if you don't get it now, that's fine. I'll come back to it later on. But if you want it, if you want to grab the slides at a later time, they'll be up there for you. So, okay, so let's jump into the meat of it. So what is the page experience update? This is the update that Sarah mentioned at the beginning of the meetup. What does it all entail? And this is this is what I explain to people. This is my definition of it. Really, it's the change that Google's making to add user experience signals to the way that Google search ranks organic results. So it's an algorithm change that is going to look at specific signals on sites that relate to the user experience. And then Google's going to take those signals and adjust the search results based on what they're seeing. So we'll talk a little bit, we'll unpack that a little bit, what that means. And again, we'll talk a lot about Core Web Vitals because I think that is a big part of it. So this graphic in the upper left is a graphic taken directly from the page experience update page that Google put out. And you can see the different signals that Google is going to be looking at when this rolls out. So at the top left, you could see Core Web Vitals, which includes a couple of different things that we measured. The largest contentful paint, or LCP, first input delay, or FID, and cumulative layout shift, CLS. So those are probably the big ones that have a lot of people concerned right now, but that's not the only thing that Google's going to be rolling out with this update. With the page experience update, they'll also be looking at mobile friendliness, safe browsing, HTTPS, and then intrusive interstitials. So the talk today is really going to focus on Core Web Vitals, but I think it's good to understand that the page experience update is not just isolated to Core Web Vitals. There are a couple of other things too. If you work with clients or you have your own site, there's a good chance you probably already have a mobile-friendly site, or you're helping clients make their site mobile-friendly. I think a lot of people have secure sites with HTTPS. So a lot of the other components, I think a lot of people have had them for a while probably, and Core Web Vitals is so new, so that's why it's become a little bit of a bigger focus. But just want to kind of paint the picture and paint the broad picture and the complete picture of what the page experience update is. And on the right side of the slide, you can see a quote from Google, which is when they talk about the page experience update, they say it is a new way of highlighting great experiences in Google search. So what does that actually mean, though? We're not really sure. But it may mean that in the future, there could be some kind of indicator in search results. For example, if you look up a news story and you see the little lightning bolt in the search results, that indicates that that's an AMP article. And that page is going to load pretty fast, especially on mobile, because it's built with AMP. Some of you have you've probably worked in the web for a long time and probably remember when Google first introduced rich cards and things like recipes and concerts and things like that showed up in search visually, not just the 10 blue links anymore. And we have the introduction of knowledge panels on the right and so forth. So all these different things Google's done in the past to turn search a little more visual. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Nobody really knows, but they have said that they're going to highlight pages that are, pages that are delivering a good experience in search results. What that actually means, though, we're not sure. So stay tuned on that. Google's probably going to put something out about it, or maybe they'll just surprise us as they usually do. So, but they have said that they're going to try and highlight pages that are delivering a good experience, but they haven't told us exactly what that means yet. So this is probably what most of you are here to understand. What are Core Web Vitals? So we'll dig into this. So again, it's part of the larger page experience update. And again, you have the three metrics, LCP, FID, and CLS. So let's go ahead and define those metrics and kind of unpack them a little bit. So the first one is largest contentful paint. So this metric measures how many seconds it takes for the largest content element to load and be viewable to a visitor. So this could be like a hero image at the top, maybe a heading, something like that. 2.5 seconds or fewer is optimal. That's what Google is going to be looking at. One thing I'll note here is that, and we'll get to tools in a second. And what I mean by that is, how do you actually find these metrics? And we'll get to all that. Tools that'll tell you how to see these metrics for specific pages. But one thing I want to call out is, especially for developers in the room, sometimes when you're testing on different platforms, or a page might look like it loads very fast. And it probably does load very fast for probably a majority of people, especially if they're in urban areas where there's 4G or better service, or if there's Wi-Fi, or if you are viewing a site or pages on a site from a desktop computer that has high-speed internet. Most of the time, you're going to get a fast experience. What I want to encourage, not just developers, but anybody, is that these metrics are measured by Google, and it's how Google interprets your website. So you might see a very fast experience on your end, or when you're doing testing, but you always want to make sure you're looking through the lens of Google. And again, we'll get to tools in a little bit, but I think that's very important to call out that these metrics are measured by Googlebot. So that's Google visiting your site, measuring your site, and then the output being these metrics. So that's how they're interpreting it, and so we need to I think pay importance to that, especially if you have clients or your own site depends on organic traffic to generate leads, generate sales, and so forth. So that's LCP. First input delay is how many milliseconds it takes when a visitor interacts with the page element to when the browser can actually start processing the interaction. So for example, if you click on Buy Now, the the time you actually touch it to when it gets processed is first input delay. And so it should be a very fast experience here. Are you talking about 100 milliseconds or less? This is basically a metric that's measuring latency. So again, this metric is about Google measuring the snappiness of the elements on your site. And then lastly is cumulative layout shift. This one's a little bit different than the other two metrics because the other two are measured in seconds. So you have LCP being measured by seconds, FID being measured by milliseconds. Cumulative layout shift is a little bit different in the sense that it doesn't use seconds, but it uses a score. And so cumulative layout shift is really a metric that's designed to measure how stable the page is during a visit for its duration. And so the optimal score here is having 0.1 or less. And that essentially is a static page, right? You're not having a lot of shifts going on. I'll give you an example. There's a really a national news site that I go to every once in a while. And when I'm on their site, especially on mobile, this is especially on mobile for me, I'll be reading an article and all of a sudden the screen jumps down. And it jumps down because there's dynamic ads. As you're scrolling down through the page, between paragraphs, there's ads and so forth. And I get it, you know, I'm sure you understand it too. These sites have to find ways to generate revenue and make money. And one of the ways they do that is they might have pay-per-click ads or affiliate ads and so forth. But these assets are not static, they're dynamic. And so, right, the ads have different dimensions depending on the ad that's being displayed. And when that happens, right, when the ad changes, the content shifts down. And so when I'm on the site, I'm like having to use my thumb to scroll up and down to find my place again when the ad changes. And that's really it's not a good experience. And so Google has designed, you know, cumulative layout shift to measure that experience. And, you know, again, if you're presenting that kind of experience to visitors, it's not good. And you're probably going to be above the optimal mark and needs improvement or poor. And so that's really what cumulative layout shift is about. And again, these are metrics that Google has rolled out to again measure the page experience, trying to put some quantifiable numbers and metrics out there that can sort of measure a good experience for users. So if you want to dig into, again, I try to keep those definitions high level. If you want to dig in and you want to learn more about these different metrics, you can go to the articles on web.dev, and there's entire pages on LCP, FID, and CLS. So, and they're very in depth. They're very technical. Again, I've tried to keep today's talk broad, but there's a lot of great information on web.dev about these different metrics if you really want to roll your sleeves up and you know, have fun in being a nerd a little bit. So which I enjoy myself. So you are not alone if that's you. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, my slides froze up there for a second. So now that we know what the page experience update is, what core web vitals are, I'm going to spend some time talking a little about how to identify core web vital issues on your site. So the assumption here for the next few slides is that you have Google Search Console set up for the sites that you're monitoring for clients or that you have for your own sites. If you do not have Google Search Console set up on your site, or you've never heard of it before, some of this might be unfamiliar. So I would encourage you to go set it up if you haven't already. It is a tool that lets you monitor how your site is performing in Google search from an organic perspective, right? Google has, you know, obviously a paid side of search, and then there's the organic side of search. This is Google Search Console specifically measures the organic side of search, and there's a lot of useful information in there. So if you haven't already set it up, I definitely encourage you to do that. If you need help setting it up, I'm happy to help you out offline, and just let me know at the end or send me a message or whatever. But for the most part, I've built these slides assuming that you have Google Search Console set up, that you're familiar with it, and so forth. So what you want to do is go into Google Search Console. You'll see on the left menu, the Experience section. You just want to go to the Page Experience Report, which is very new. If you've never seen that before, or you're like, wait, that's not an option I've ever heard of, that's okay, it's very new. And go to the Core Web Vitals section. So this is a screenshot. It's a little small. I apologize about that. But again, you're going to go to Google Search Console, come down here to the Page Experience section under Experience, and then the Core Web Vitals window. Card, rather. Sorry. Once you do that, this is the screen that you're going to see. And you can see on this site, this is a large site, and equally there are a lot of issues. So you can see here in the middle, there's LCP issues, there's CLS issues, there's FID issues. So there's a lot going on here because there's a lot of content. And this particular site, which shall remain anonymous, has some challenges at the server level. So there's a lot of issues that are affecting a lot of the pages. If you were to click on one of these options, whether you're on poor or needs improvement for LCP or FID or whatever, you're going to see this screen. And so here you can see here I've clicked into the LCP report. You can see that there's a list of URLs, which I've tried to keep anonymous here. But if you were to click on one of these, you'd see you can open this URL up, and then you'll be able to do some testing on it and look at it with Google's Page Speed Insights tool, which we can see here. So I just took one of the examples that we saw, and again, Google Search Console, you go into the Core Web Vitals report, select the URL that you see as listed as having the issue, an LCP issue, and plug it into Google's Page Speed Insights tool. From here, you're going to get a lot of useful information. Really, you can see right here in the middle, you have the first contentful paint. You're going to see your FID, you're going to see your LCP, and your CLS metrics right here. So you can see on this particular page, FID, they're doing pretty good on first input delay. There's definitely some challenges, though, on both largest contentful paint and cumulative layout shift. Here we can see in a little bit further down the page, we can see opportunities and the diagnostics. So this is where things become a little technical. And I'm not going to go into all these because if you're not a technical person, I'll totally lose you. But if you are a technical person, you might be a little disappointed by that. But again, trying to keep things a high level here. But essentially, what I want to highlight is that the tool is going to tell you where your opportunities are. And sometimes it's a little challenging, I think, especially if you're not a technical person, to understand if these issues are at the page level. So is there a problem with that specific page, or is there a problem with the server that may be affecting all pages? So that's not something that Google Search Console or PageSpeed Insights is going to tell you. You're going to have to probably dig into it a little bit. There's probably going to be some research. But one of the nice things I like about this particular tool is that it tells you the estimated savings in seconds. So if you were to fix, for example, removing unused JavaScript, your page load time could be better by 4.5 seconds. And so that's pretty good, especially if you are part of an in-house team or you're working with clients and they want, my clients I work with are usually medium level businesses or medium-sized businesses all the way up to enterprises. And especially the enterprises, they want to know what's the value. Give me hard numbers that we're going to actually see with improving X, Y, or Z. And I like that this tool lets you identify some of those things and really put some tangible numbers to improving issues or tangible numbers to the problems that you're seeing here. So once you've identified an issue, and we'll get a little bit more into into this section as to whether it's a page issue or a server issue. So, but once you've identified the issues and you've taken some time to look at some different sections of the site, maybe you've looked at some different pages that you saw in the reports. How do you actually improve those scores? And so I think the big challenge, I think, and I just mentioned this, is defining the scope of the issue. Is it affecting all pages? Could it be a site-wide issue? Is there an issue related to a specific asset? Maybe you have like some JavaScript on your site that's might be causing a problem for some of the pages. Are the issues isolated to a very specific group of pages? Maybe you have an image that's used on a lot of different pages, like for whatever reason. I can't think of something off the top of my head, but maybe you use an unoptimized image across a few different pages. You might see a grouping of those. You might see a group of pages that could be affected, or maybe you have a specific page type, like I just shared, that has that JavaScript asset on it, and you're seeing that those particular those types of pages are impacted. So I think defining the scope of the issue is probably the most challenging thing. Is this a server issue? Is this a page-specific issue? Is it affecting a particular group of pages? But once you have that defined and scoped out, then you can really start going to work. So some of the site-wide issues, I'll dig into some examples here, and then we'll talk a little bit about solutions as well. So some site-wide issues that you might see that may be triggering some LCP, FID, or CLS issues. Could be a non-responsive or a semi-responsive theme. And it's 2020, right? 2021. Oh God, did I really just say that's 2020 still? Hopefully, thankfully not, right? You think in 2021 that most people have a responsive theme, and for the most part, I think a lot of people do, but some don't. I remember even last year, a colleague of mine had a site, and they had clients of their own, and they had a site that was not mobile friendly, not responsive. So surprising, but that was the reality. And for whatever reason, right? It could be a bunch of different reasons why the site was set up that way. Maybe they couldn't get to it or whatever. It happens all the time. Where I see this as an SEO happen a lot is with when I'm working with agencies, and I've worked with a lot of agencies because a lot of agencies hone in on a specific niche. Maybe they're a creative agency, they don't do SEO, so they'll partner with me, or some kind of digital marketing agency. Maybe they're a medical specific agency, like a dentist. They only market to dentists or doctors, and they have a theme. They have their own custom theme that they market and that they use to build sites. This happens a lot with those types of agencies where they've built a custom theme, but there was a part of it that's not exactly quite right. This is where you get the sort of semi-responsive theme where most of the content looks good, most of the time it's responsive, but there's like maybe one or two pages that cause problems. Maybe it's a custom post type that's a problem. So that's where I see sometimes this can be an issue, or outdated themes too. So that might be a problem and could cause widespread core web vital issues. Maybe you have compression turned off. gzip is very easy to turn on, but it's possible that that it's not turned on. For the example we just looked at, that particular server did not have gzip turned on, believe it or not, and that's a pretty big site. I was a little surprised to see that. If compression is not turned on, then it's certainly going to affect latency. It's certainly going to affect the largest contentful paint, how fast users are actually seeing that first element. So that could be affecting core web vital issues. Maybe you have theme settings that need to be adjusted. If you have, especially some of the more popular themes on some of the marketplaces, like Avada, for example, is a pretty popular one. If you don't adjust the theme settings and turn off things that you don't need, there's a chance that you could be loading elements on your site that you don't need. And that's going to cause, again, LCP issues. Me, probably not the other two, but definitely LCP issues. And then lastly, the last example I have here is intrusive interstitials. So again, this is kind of going back to uh, the page experience update more broadly, but it could be causing issues for load. Interstitials bring additional load to the page, so you want to make sure that that you don't have those, and if you do, you may see some Core Web Vital problems. So those are some examples of site-wide issues. If you're talking about a specific page, and a specific page is being flagged for whatever the metrics may be, some issues, some things that you might see as problems would be like maybe you have a button that's an issue. Maybe there's a latency problem. Maybe there's that particular element's getting flagged, or the page is getting flagged for FID because of a particular button element. Sometimes unoptimized images on a specific page could be causing LCP issues. If you have, again, I mentioned this example earlier with the news site, dynamic affiliate ads, that may be a problem with cumulative layout shift. And so if you have pages on your site, they're using dynamic affiliate ads, you might see some shift there, and that could cause some CLS issues. Or if you have a triggered pop-up, again, that may also get flagged as well. So again, you have site-wide issues and then page-specific issues. And again, trying to drill down to which one it is really, I think, the hardest thing I think most people will find. So let's talk about some solutions that might be able to help out. I mentioned gzip as a solution for one of the examples, but there's a lot of different things that could be done depending on what you're finding with the tools. So again, you're going to have to dig into Google Search Console. You're going to have to figure out, is this a site-wide issue? Is this a grouping of pages, or is it specific pages on my site? And then you're going to have to figure out, okay, I've used Google Search Console, I've used PageSpeed Insights. Looks like it could be a site-wide issue affecting many pages on my site. You may need to, consider one of these options, right? You may need to upgrade your hosting, or you may need to, I don't know why I have gzip compression listed here twice. I apologize about that. You may need to optimize your images. You may need to think about setting up a CDN, which for those that are not familiar, that's a content delivery network, CDN. It's a way that will speed up the delivery of your content using a proxy server. Very, very effective way to improve page speed on your site, which could improve your LCP score. Again, that largest contentful paint, how long it takes before a user sees the element that they can start interacting with. Maybe you need to rework your theme code. I go back to the example where I shared some agencies I've partnered with that are using a custom theme. The theme code may need to be reworked, or you may need to adjust some theme settings, or you may have a caching issue. Caching is definitely something that would affect the site as a whole and not just specific individual pages. So these are some potential solutions that could improve the performance of your Core Web Vitals if you have a site-wide issue. We'll come back to some other WordPress-specific solutions in just a second. But if you have a page-specific problem and you're looking for solutions for specific pages, you may need to optimize the images on that page. You may need to revamp the code. Maybe you need to remove the ads on that page. Perhaps you need to pause page-specific tags. And that's, if you're not sure what I mean by that, depending on the different digital marketing efforts that you have going on, I guess we'll use the word efforts, you may have different things that trigger an event on a specific page. So let's say someone scrolls 75% of your article, you may have a pop-up that displays. Or maybe if they scroll down 75%, you have an ad come up or something like that, and then the page shifts. That would be a potential issue for CLS, cumulative layout shift. And so if you're using a tag solution that sort of generates these events, you might need to put that on pause and see how that page performs if you put those things on pause. So maybe, and I just mentioned the interstitial example, or maybe you need to adjust a plugin. Maybe you have a plugin that's does a couple things to certain pages on your site. Maybe you need to turn that off or pause it and see how the performance adjusts on that page. Again, a lot of this is like, it's one of those things where you kind of have to use the tool to diagnose the issue, and then once you've identified the issue, look at the diagnosis on PageSpeed Insights and see, okay, what tool in my toolbox do I need to pull out, right? Do I need to optimize the images? Do I need to maybe tweak some of the dynamic ads on my site or affiliate ads on your site? It depends on what the issue actually is. What is Google seeing? And that will help inform what solution you want to leverage. So I said I'd come back to site-wide issues. Some potential plugin solutions that might help site-wide issues are WP Rocket, which is really great for a lot of different things, especially caching. A lot of nice caching options. It does a lot. Now that is a premium service. So just keep that in mind. If you want to leverage it, you can, and it will help Core Web Vital scores for sure. Even before this whole update, I know a lot of people that swore by WP Rocket because it would help with PageSpeed Insight scores. And even before, we'll divert here for just a second. Even before the page experience update, Google has been looking at site speed for quite some time. And so this was a really handy plugin solution that could help with that. That's something that you can think about, and you can go to their site if you want to learn more about them. Auto Optimize is really what I leverage lots of times. Clients that, especially for small business clients that don't have large budgets, they don't want to go with a premium solution like WP Rocket. Auto Optimize is a great way to do some things on the site. Minification, it does a great job with minification as well as other things. I'm not going to get into that too much right now, but it's an option that could help you with especially some of the LCP stuff. Smush, which is a plugin that will help you optimize your images, which again could help with LCP as well. So some of the other ones, like CLS, for example, if you're having shift issues, usually the most common thing I've seen with that are ads. So it's not really something a plugin is going to be able to help you out with. Latency, FID, latency, and things like that. Again, maybe some of these solutions will help you, but really this is going to be for overall performance, and I think that's really going to be seen with LCP. So these are some solutions that could help you, especially with site-wide issues. Okay, do a time check really quick. Okay, cool. We're doing really well. I think we're doing really well on time. I try to make these slides so that we can take questions at the end, because I always feel like I get a lot of questions when we talk about SEO stuff. Okay, so we've talked about identifying Core Web Vital issues. We talked about how to improve the scores. What are some things that you can do to, both some things that you could look at that could be causing issues, as well as some things that you can do to fix issues. We're going to spend some time here talking about monitoring and validating Core Web Vital issues. So again, Google Search Console offers some really great reports. Let's go back to those and take a look. Again, you're going to go to the page experience report, and it's going to show you the site's page experience performance as a whole, and then we'll drill in a little bit more. And so quick note here really quick, let me go back a couple slides. If you go to this report and you click on Core Web Vitals, it's going to take you straight to mobile, the mobile version. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be leveraging the page experience report. If you click on this card, it's going to take you straight to mobile. But if you go into Google Search Console and you come down to Core Web Vitals on the left, you will get this this page, which you can break out by mobile or desktop, and then you can open the report to drill down a little bit more. So we've looked at these screenshots already before. Again, you're going to go into the different metric that you want to target, whether it's LCP, CLS, so forth. And then once you see, oh, I apologize. This one, I must have put the wrong screenshot in here. I apologize, folks. Once you have fixed an issue for, or did I put this? Yeah, okay, never mind. We'll get to that. Sorry, I got a little bit thrown off here because I was adjusting these slides a little bit last night, so I apologize. Again, this is where you're going to find all the issues listed. And really quick, if you're going to be monitoring these things over time, when you've identified an issue, when you fixed an issue, you want to see how it's performing. If you're seeing, you want to see, again, the red and the orange trending down. In this case, this site has had some issues with trending up. If you want to see them trending down, you want to come to this report on a monthly basis, not a weekly, not a daily basis. And the reason that is these things take time, right? When you are, some tactics that you're going to implement to fix problems may not take a ton of time. For example, gzip, in my opinion, is very easy to turn on. Takes a matter of minutes to turn that on. But for that particular update to show any kind of improvement here, it's going to take time because Google takes time to crawl the site. Then it's going to index those results, and then you're going to see those results inside of the tool. Again, that's going to take a long time to happen, and so this is not something that you want to. You don't want to just deploy a fix and then come back the next day thinking that the report's going to be updated, because it's not. Even over a week, you probably won't see much traction. What you want to do is come back on a monthly basis, and if you're going to be tracking these things, you should really think about how can I report this to clients as part of a bigger effort with reporting. So again, just a tip here that you want to come back on a monthly basis, not on a weekly or a daily basis. And over time, you should really see these things start to trend down. Okay, so if you have fixed an issue, say you went into Google Search Console, you saw you had Core Web Vital issues, you've put together a really good plan, you and your team put together a really good plan, you went out over the last, 6 months or so, and you've implemented a few different fixes. Maybe you upgraded the hosting, you've applied compression on the site, maybe you picked up a WordPress plugin that will help you with caching or minification and things like that. So you've applied a lot of different fixes, and you really want to have Google take a look at the site now that you've applied all these different fixes. What you can do is come into Google Search Console and you can select the validate option. And really what that's going to do is you're letting Google know that you've fixed the issues that Google flagged and that you'd like those pages recrawled. And so Google will then send Googlebot out to your site, and it will crawl the site and tell you if you've truly fixed the issues. Sometimes, depending on the size of the issue, Google might do a quick check to see if the issue has been validated, the issue has been fixed inside of Google Search Console. Sometimes you'll get flagged like, no, you didn't actually fix the issue. So, but if you've actually taken the time to do things right, you've put together a good plan, you've done some testing, maybe internally on like a test server, these things work, you've deployed that fix, and you really feel strongly like this is really going to help whatever metric, LCP, FID or CLS, you can go ahead into Google Search Console and select validate fix on the issue that you were targeting, whichever metric you were trying to fix. And then again, Googlebot will go out to the site, recrawl it. And again, that is really how Google is interpreting the performance of your site and your content. So in an ideal world, right, this would automatically happen, right? You would deploy fixes, and Google would come back and see that you deployed those fixes, and you would see the report start to trend down naturally. Sometimes it's okay to be proactive. So that's why I thought it would be worth covering this, that if you've deployed a pretty sizable fix and you really feel like it's going to really improve the different metrics, whatever core web vital metric you're targeting, then you're definitely going to want to come in here to Google Search Console and select validate fix so that those changes can get picked up. And again, that will impact or should impact the organic search performance of the site as a whole. One other thing you might want to consider if you are using an SEO tool such as a Moz Pro or SEMrush is very popular as well, to see if they're actually offering any kind of core web vitals reporting. This might be a way that you can better identify issues. So in these slides, I've shown you the Google Search Console reports as well as PageSpeed Insights. And those are both free tools. These are premium offerings. So if you were to do like a Moz Pro or SEMrush, you're usually going to have like a monthly fee associated with those. But they do offer some, and not everyone offers this. The screenshot here is from Moz, because this is a beta that they're doing right now, where they're trying to roll out some performance reports. I know SEMrush as well is offering this. I don't know if everybody else is. Probably the major players are, but you may find more consumable information in there. And what I mean by that is, when we looked at the PageSpeed Insights, example, there's a lot going on that output, right? There's a lot of different things, and you can see the seconds associated with the different issues. But sometimes if you're not a technical person or this is new territory for you, it may be a little bit challenging to consume. Some of these other tool providers, again, they are premium services, but they do break it down nicely in plain language. And it can help you put together plans. This is especially helpful if you're trying to communicate to larger audiences internally or senior leadership as part of your company. May be helpful and something that you might want to look into if you have a subscription to those services. So just something I thought I'd point out, especially since we're talking about monitoring here and validating those fixes. Okay, we're going to round things out really quickly with some FAQs. I only have two. So again, this is kind of something I mentioned in the beginning in terms of like, what does it mean when Google says they're going to highlight these different experiences in Google search, right? What does it mean when Google's going to highlight a good experience? Or I think a different way to ask that question is, what's this update's impact? And I think the honest answer is no one really knows completely, right? A lot of the SEOs that other SEO professionals that I look up to, people that I respect greatly and have learned from them for many years, have said they don't really feel like it's going to be a big impact. Some people feel like it is going to be a big impact. I personally don't think it's going to be a huge shift. But again, I don't really know. I think a lot of it depends on how is Google going to highlight pages that are serving a good experience. I think that will be very interesting to see. So again, this is challenging to say what kind of impact exactly rolling out Core Web Vitals is going to have. And again, this is an update that will roll out next month. It was originally, in June. It was originally slated for May, but Google pushed it out to June. And so we'll start rolling out then. I think it's going to take a couple of months to roll out completely. So I think by August is what it should be rolled out completely by August. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. like many Google updates, you know, it takes time to roll them all out just because the web is so vast. So we'll take a little bit of time, but again, the impact is still kind of up in the air. And then the other one, I think, is a fun question that I see getting asked is, do good scores mean position one? In other words, if I have great Core Web Vital scores, does that mean I'm going to jump to the top of search? And I think John Mueller did a great job of answering this. And if you don't know who John is a web trends analyst at Google. He works on Google Search Console. He's a fantastic asset. He engages with the search community a lot, especially on Twitter. And he said here, relevance is still far much more important, right? So just because your site is fast doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to outrank everybody. So focus on your content, make sure that you're delivering great quality content that's useful and helpful to your audience. That's what's going to get you winning in search, and not necessarily, you know, spending a lot of time on improving your Core Web Vital scores. Now, that doesn't mean that you should ignore it, but it also means that you shouldn't put all of your investment into improving Core Web Vital scores. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But yeah, so those are the two FAQs I thought would be helpful. Again, if you want today's slides, you can go to expanderdigital.com/slides, scroll down to the 2021 section, and just go ahead and grab them there. And then lastly, if you wanted to do some additional reading, there are some links here. And again, you can get to these links by going to grab the slides. The first link here, timing for bringing page experience to Google search, talks a lot about what the page experience update is, talks about when it's going to be rolling out and so forth. There is also a link here to the Core Web Vitals report in Google Search Console. So there's some explanatory content there that I think is helpful, especially if you're new to Google Search Console or you've not explored that section. And then using the Crux dashboard on Google Data Studio. This one's probably for more analytics minded folks who are doing some advanced reporting, especially for enterprise level clients or companies. If you're looking to present some of the Core Web Vitals reports in Google Data Studio, there's a link there that talks a little bit about how to do that. I use Google Data Studio for all of my client reports. So I think it's a fantastic tool. It really does a great job of showing data in a consumable way. So that is something that you can do with the Core Web Vital metrics. So if you're interested in doing that, there's a link there that will help you with that. So I guess I'll pause and open it up for questions if there are any.
If anyone has any questions and wants to unmute or just put them in the chat and I can read them as well.
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
Josh, very good presentation. This is Brett Dickerson. I'm the editor of Oklahoma City Free Press, and I use Smush a lot because we're a news site and we use a lot of photographs. So early on, I had to learn the value of optimizing my own photos, you know, before I even upload them, and then I have Smush, you know, finish that off. Now, are there, you know, that company has about 15 other plugins. I'm always fighting to, you know, to resist the temptation to load my site down with too many plugins. Have you found any of their other plugins to be helpful at all?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've used the suite of plugins. I've definitely used Smush on some sites, and I found it to be a good resource and a good plugin. Having said that, I certainly empathize with the idea of minimal plugins, and that's right. A philosophy that I've embraced with sites. Because, you know, not all plugins are equal, right? So, yeah. You know, I think if you are looking to do that, I might take a couple of pages on my site, key pages, maybe the home page, maybe a blog page, and depending on what kind of page, other page that you might have, I'd say another key page, whether it's a service page or something like that. And I might just run them through PageSpeed Insights to get a pulse check as to what the scores are. And then if you want to add that plugin, I would add it on and then run another test on those same pages through PageSpeed Insights to see how is that going to impact my performance. So although the Google Search Console reports, again, I think if you're concerned about Core Web Vitals, you should check them on a monthly basis, or I mean, a bi-weekly basis would be even okay, but certainly not on a weekly basis or a daily basis. I think that's a long-term report, but PageSpeed Insights will do stuff real time. So you can take a pulse check really quick, see how a couple of key pages on your site are looking. You can turn on that, you can activate that plugin, and then go back to PageSpeed Insights and see what kind of impact is having that additional plugin turned on doing to my pages. And I would kind of say that might be a good way to see if it's going to have a negative impact or a positive impact. And then maybe you need to adjust your usage, or maybe you don't. It depends. But I definitely embrace the philosophy of trying to keep a minimal set of plugins on a site if I can, for sure.
Yeah, well, the other question I have, we just went on Cloudflare about a month or so ago, and there are no perceptible problems. Long term, is there anything that you think that I need to watch for from your own experience with Cloudflare?
I love Cloudflare. I use it on my own site. So no, you're not going to hear any complaints about it from me. The only thing that I think is sometimes tricky is if you're setting up Google Search Console, and we talked a little bit about that earlier, especially if you're trying to set up the domain property, which is Google's recommended way to set up Google Search Console, you're going to have to go through Cloudflare, not the DNS that you have, not through your DNS provider, because everything's going to funnel through Cloudflare. So that's just something to keep in mind. But no, I think in terms of performance, it's a fantastic service, and I think I use it on my own site, so I think it's great. And I think if you are a person that is not using a CDN like Cloudflare, but you're looking to see improvements, it might be something that's worth trying out.
Yeah. Well, so is there a problem with everything going through Cloudflare and then Google Search Console measuring that? Is there anything I need to tweak on that side?
Yeah, let me clarify that point. So the way that Google Search Console verifies the domain property is through a text record. So if you put the text record on your DNS, Google's going to look for it on your DNS, but it needs to be on Cloudflare because everything goes to Cloudflare and then it goes to your DNS. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's why I mentioned that with the reporting. So that's just for reporting, though. It's not going to impact your performance at all.